Infrastructure Committee, and we're going to start with public comment. If there's anyone from the public who wishes to comment.
Grand Rising. How you doing, everybody? I'm D. Jones, passionate entrepreneur and visionary. One day I dream of living on a peaceful universe. There's no genocide, and there's no bombings, and there's no people getting killed, and there's no violence. If you have to defend yourself, that's another thing. But just uncaused for violence, I don't believe in that. And I'm just going to be very frank and just be myself because I'm a genuine person online, in person. I'm the same person. I'm the same individual every room I step into. And so, as you guys know, I've been a huge advocate for 3D printing construction. And I actually got to visit the house, the first 3D printed house in the state of Michigan. So 1444 Sheridan Street. And I got to look at this house. My friend drove me there. First, we hooped at LA Fitness in the hood with a bunch of black people. It was cool, and a bunch of different ethnicities. It was crazy. It was a fun experience going to the hood, to the trenches out there in Detroit and hooping. And then he ended up driving me over there to Sheridan. And then I ended up seeing the house over there on Sheridan. And then I got to, as I looked at the house, I was going to snap some pics, but then I seen the lady and she had a bunch of groceries on her front porch. So I was like, you know, I'm gonna just go knock on the house and just see if and just speak to her because I've been such a huge advocate. And then the lady was so nice, she ended up letting me go inside the house. So I got to go inside the first 3D printed house in the state. And we had a conversation. I spoke to her about the stuff I've been doing across Kent County and having an HBCU initiative to educate students across the United States in HBCUs and standardizing curricula and increasing digital equity. And the Decentralized Streaming Platform Party was actually a part of a proclamation that the mayor of Houston actually gave to TSU as they did an event around streaming and gaming and entertainment. As you know, video games and esports is bigger than the film, music, and TV industry, 2 times the revenue. And so I spoke to this lady about the 3D printed construction and the party token being having real utility use and it being used for 3D printing construction. And so I also was at the Democratic Convention. I am an independent. And so I found out that you guys, the Republicans, now have a headquarters here now. So I will be at you guys' office speaking to the Republicans and being bold and having those conversations about decentralized finance, the Clarity Act, and just how we can actually work together and work on some bipartisanship and things that actually benefit the entire community in Kent County. Because these things that I'm doing is happening across the United States, and I'm having huge conversations about, you know, increasing digital equity. And I've actually been able to go inside the first 3D printed house across the state, and there will be 3D printed houses across the Kent County. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public wishing to comment this morning? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to item number 3 on our agenda, the consent agenda. Is there a motion for this item? Motion. Moved by Commissioner Sparks, supported by Commissioner Halstead. Any questions or comments on the consent agenda this morning? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Motion passes. We are on to our action items. We will begin with action item A from Human Resources, the labor agreement from the Technical Professional and Office Workers Association of Michigan.
Action requested. Recommend to the Board of Commissioners to approve a 3-year labor agreement spanning March 26, 26 through December 31, 28 between the County of Kent and the Technical Professional and Office Workers Association of Michigan, which we call TPOAM, and to authorize the board chair or designee to sign the agreement. Summary. On August 18, 2025, the Michigan Employment Relations Commission certified the TPOAM Association of Michigan as the sole representative of 35 non-supervisory attorneys in the Public Defender's Office for the purposes of collective bargaining with respect to rates of pay, wages, hours of employment, and other conditions of employment. Negotiation of a new collective bargaining agreement commenced shortly thereafter. Substantive changes resulting from the new agreement are summarized. The greater of either a 3% across-the-board wage increase or across-the-board wage increase provided to the management pay plan will apply in 27 and 28. For employees hired on or after January 1 of 26, the timing of scheduled step increases will change to 6 months after hire and every 12 months thereafter, Employees hired before that date will continue to receive scheduled step increases in early January. The cap on the PTO bank is increased from 80 to 120 hours. The cap on the vacation bank is increased from 280 hours to 300 hours. Optional employee paid supplemental life insurance for spouses and dependents was eliminated. All 2026 costs associated with this agreement are included in the 2026 Indigent Defense Fund budget.
Is there a motion for this item?
So moved.
Moved by Vice Chair Hildebrand. Is there support? Supported by Commissioner Coleman. Questions or comments on this item? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Motion passes. We are on to item B from the Administrator's Office, the 2027 Capital Improvement Program.
Yes. Action requested. Approve the administrative CIP project proposal to be included in the county 2027 budget. Summary, the 2027 CIP requests were reviewed and a recommendation was prepared by a staff committee including representation from Facilities Management, IT, Park, Sheriff, and Fiscal. During the March 26 CIP work session, the administrator's CIP proposal was reviewed in detail by the County Board of Commissioners. The proposal includes 24 projects at a total cost of $8,290,600. Financing for CIP is proposed to be drawn from general fund support of $7,922,533 and $368,067 from other sources. The board's CIP policy calls for a minimum of the equivalent of 0.20 mils be allocated to the CIP budget annually. The general fund support for the 2027 CIP proposal equates to the equivalent of approximately 0.20 mils. With the concurrence of the Finance and Infrastructure Committee, funding for these projects will be included in the 2027 budget, scheduled for board approval on August 27, 2026.
Is there a motion for this item?
So moved.
Moved by Vice Chair Hildebrand. Is there support? Supported by Commissioner Hallstead. Questions or comments on this item? Vice Chair Hildebrand.
Thank you, Chair. I brought this up at the work session just about the amount of money that we're spending at capital and if it's worth a conversation to look at, that we have a ton of needs that were laid out during that work session and, do we have the right balance right now between how much we're putting into capital and, as part of a greater percentage of the general fund. So I guess I just want to reiterate, I think it's a good conversation to have and to make sure we're striking the right balance. Is there, a good reason to potentially increase that percentage, that size of the millage that's going to capital improvements? So just want to reiterate that for the committee meeting. Thank you.
Any other questions or Commissioner Coleman?
Thank you, Chair. I would echo Commissioner Hildebrand's comments. I think that's something good to continuously evaluate, and as capital needs are increasing, to make sure that our budgeted policy number kind of stays in line with what we need. I would just like to say thanks for the process this year. I know it's kind of changed up a little bit, so where we had some overview and input in advance of the CIP committee meeting and working through the details, and I thought that worked really well. So thanks to all involved in trying that out. I thought it was great.
Fantastic. Any other questions or comments on this item? Okay, seeing no additional conversation, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Motion passes. We are on to item C from the Administrator's Office, approve new tax sharing agreement with Wyoming and Wyoming Downtown Development Authority.
Action requested. Recommend to the Board of Commissioners to authorize the County Administrator Controller to sign an updated tax sharing agreement with the City of Wyoming and the Wyoming Downtown Development Authority. Summary. In 2014, the county signed a tax sharing agreement with the City of Wyoming and its Downtown Development Authority, whereby Wyoming agreed to pay to the county the amount the Wyoming DDA captured from millages dedicated to senior services, the correctional facility, and veterans. While the Zoo, Museum, and Ready by 5 dedicated millages are not covered by the 2014 agreement, Wyoming has nonetheless remitted to the county the amount captured by the DDA for these millages in addition to those that are part of the agreement. Wyoming and Wyoming DDA have agreed to replace the 2014 agreement with a new agreement by which the city and the DDA will formally agree to forego capture of the county's 5 dedicated special millages. In return, the county has agreed to contribute tax revenue to the DDA from its general operating millage on a dollar-for-dollar basis with the city of Wyoming. The proposed tax sharing agreement is consistent with the county's economic development policy. A copy of the proposed agreement is in the packet. And then corporate counsel will review and approve before it's signed.
Thank you. Is there a motion for this item? Moved by Vice Chair Hildebrand. Is there support? Supported by Commissioner Coleman. It's a quiet group this morning. Are there any questions or comments on this item? Okay, we'll start with Commissioner Pakla.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Al, I'm trying to understand sort of what the scope is of this or the scale of it. I think those are the two questions. The scope, my understanding is that we're just sort of doing a this for that to protect the special millages, right? The amount of money that's going into the special millages. But the amount is what I'm trying to wrap my head around in terms of, and I think maybe the question I'm asking is, can we see a spreadsheet of what this looks like over the course of the next 5-10 years so that we understand if we're investing dollars from the general operating millage, what's the amount that we're investing those dollars in in protection of those special millages?
Yeah, so we do collect that information. The only maybe hiccup in that plan is that my understanding is that the Wyoming DDA is planning on expanding its borders somewhat. So the numbers may change, but between fiscal and corporate counsel's office, we can provide you those numbers.
That'd be great. And I think it'd be useful too in sort of my second question, which is understanding this. We're matching the dollars that Wyoming is putting in based on what the DDA would otherwise capture from those 5 special millages. How does that then amount that we're remitting from the general operating fund compare to what would be captured otherwise?
So I just want to make sure that it's clear. So really, it's a dollar-for-dollar match with the city of Wyoming's, what they capture out of their general operating fund. We match $1 for every dollar that they put into that.
Okay, that's the part I missed. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Sure.
Commissioner Ponstein.
Thank you, Chair Teal. So Al, what is the amount that the city of Wyoming is taking from Kent County taxpayers?
Brian, we have that figure. Do you have that?
I don't have that figure with me, Commissioner, but we can certainly provide that to you. I think, if you're talking about in the past years, really what has been happening is that the city of Wyoming has been remitting more dollars back to the county than it technically had to, given the tax sharing agreement that was in place. So this is really just kind of resetting the status quo so that they are not going to be capturing those special millage tax dollars.
Okay, so I understand all of that from my years on the Granville City Council. This is getting out of line. DDA's come up with these new planned share or whatever they want to cost, but at the end of the day, they're still taking money that is supposed to be going to county services. The city of Grand Rapids does it along with others, and that they are capturing special millages too is, it's just, beyond belief, the greed of local governmental units of trying to get as much money as possible, and especially when it's directed to our taxpayers, it's okay to take that. So if the agreement is up and we're trying to renew it, I'm not going to support it. I think the whole thing should be scrapped. Our entities that have millages in the Wyoming should get it all, and we should get all of ours back. And, this has got to stop. And I've been critical of, the downtown Grand Rapids DDA, the constant expansion, the constant increase in money taking. And you just said that that's what Wyoming's plan is to expand this even more. And this is from an entity where we gave them millions of dollars of ARPA funding and American Rescue Plan money and dollars. It's not fair. It's just wrong. We've got to relook at how governmental units collect and pay taxes and stop, relying on the big dog, us, to help them fund their city and their services. Thank you.
So part of what we're doing is fixing what could be an error, I think, because the first three millages of corrections, senior millage and veterans are all covered by an agreement where they agree not to capture that. But for whatever reason, when the other two millages went into effect years ago, the Ready by Five and also the Zoo Museum, that agreement wasn't sought by the county at that time. So in a way, they would argue that they have been paying that back to the county in error. And so what we're trying to do is get that set right so that they're not collecting from the special millages. Because right now, there's no agreement that would prevent them from doing that going forward. And there would be some discussion about the past as far as whether they should be repaid. But this agreement would represent a go-forward way of saying, we're forgetting the past, we're going to set it right going forward so collections aren't being made from the special millage, those two special millages. And I think it was an oversight not to have a pro forma with this, so we will certainly have that for the board meeting.
Okay, Commissioner Coleman.
Just to make sure I'm clear on this, so I appreciate Commissioner Ponstein's concern about the just nature of DDA tax capture, especially, special millage capture. But I guess my understanding is that we're kind of stuck with that system because it's like a state law thing. And if we didn't have this agreement, then they would be able to capture more. Is my understanding correct in that regard, or no?
It's really complex. We've been preparing a report to you on all the uses of TIF in Kent County, but let me take a stab at, prior to the Great Recession, Kent County was really very supportive of its local units using TIF, because the use of TIF is really a half glass, half empty type of argument. Because the question is whether a development would occur. What it allows you to do is charge infrastructure costs to future taxes. And so if you don't have the money in your current budget, the other thing it does, in the old way of before the DDA law was passed, I think it was 1974, basically a local unit, whether it be city or township or whomever, would have to bear 100% of the costs of infrastructure real time to make industrial property suitable for development, having water, sewer, roads, all that. But what the different TIF laws that were passed in the 70s and 80s, what they were trying to accomplish was you can use the future taxes to pay the current cost, and many times bonds were sold, so you would use that to pay the debt service. And all jurisdictions that benefited, with the exception of school debt, from that tax, from that development, would also, a future portion of their taxes would also go to pay the costs of the debt to do those improvements. So the idea was to find a way to make development happen that was more fair per everybody who shared in the new tax base, and also make it so that you could use future tax dollars generated by the development to actually pay the costs. So that's really how TIF works. And so Kent County was pretty much open to any use of local government TIF until the Great Recession. And then Darrell DeLabio and Bob White, who was our fiscal services director, looked at the situation and decided that we were too far out there. And so the economic development policy was passed, and basically the county took a stricter approach to not simply accept, or state law does allow a county to not have its taxes captured. But it doesn't apply if there's already a TIF in place. And there's agreements with Wyoming that go back to the, as far back as like the senior millage has been around and that sort of thing. And so we became very restrictive for new uses of TIF. And we have a whole number of governments in Kent County that would love us to be a little less restrictive. And it may make sense to do that if you could limit, we did this analysis in Ottawa, and I think it was the Hudsonville DDA. We weren't going to see money in the general fund for 57 years, just by the way that was set up and how it was allowed to renew. So if you could truly set it up for 10 years and limit the expense to the cost of the capital improvements needed to make a development happen, it could work in everyone's favor. So that's what we've slowly been looking at, is to get a grip on all of our uses of TIF and maybe an amendment of the current economic development policy. I'm sorry for the long-winded answer, but it is a very complex sort of deal, and, yeah.
Just to add for the commission, the estimated DDA capture in 2024 for the Wyoming DDA was $71,297.87.
Commissioner Poundstein, for a second.
So just so for clarifications, when we talk about tax increment financing districts, the ones I know, there's an end date, when the bonds are paid off for that development to make it better. These DDAs are living, growing creatures that are constantly expanding, constantly taking more tax dollars that are meant for another purpose. And whether it's 74,000 or in the millions like the Grand Rapids DDA, we've got to stop this. And I know the state have tried, they've inserted opt-out things for future ones. This has got to end. And we got to start sending a message that our tax dollars are supposed to be used for the things that we do for the people. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on this item this morning? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carries. We are on to item 4 from the Administrator's Office, the West Michigan Welcome Plan GRA 250 Cultural Event Sponsorships.
All right. Action requested. Recommend to the Board of Commissioners to accept and appropriate $35,000 to the Kent County Welcome Plan budget in the FY26 Special Projects Fund for GRA 250 Cultural Event Sponsorships. Summary. Grand Rapids and Kent County, really all of our nation, are commemorating the 250th anniversary of the founding of the United States, and we're celebrating through the GRA 250 initiative aimed at fostering civic pride and community engagement. The initiative will offer events, educational programming, and volunteer opportunities that encourage residents to reflect on the nation's founding ideals and their relevance today. GRA 250 positions Grand Rapids to align with state and national efforts while celebrating and advancing these values in a uniquely West Michigan context. Welcome Plan is serving in a co-chair position for the GRA 250 New American Subcommittee. The subcommittee secured funding for the collective sponsorship of 14 Grand Rapids cultural festivals and events. The County Welcome Plan is the fiduciary for the GRA 250 funds, distributing $2,500 to each event sponsored. The organizers of each event will include GRA 250 logo, social media shout-outs, and dedicated vendor space for the GRA 250 Democracy Cafe team and exhibit. This effectively expands visibility across multiple cultural celebrations, reaching an estimated 130,000 plus attendees. The events to be sponsored are the Latinx Youth Conference, Tale of Two Worlds, Celebration of Arab and Islamic Cultures, World Intellectual Property Day, Elevate Art Conference and Concert, A Glimpse of Africa, Mental Health and Wellness and Africa Day Celebration, Grand Rapids Asian Pacific Festival, World Refugee Day and Immigrant Month Celebration, World Refugee Day Block Party, Hispanic Festival, A Glimpse of Africa Festival, Global Gathering, Fiesta Mexicana, and Youth Residence Night.
Is there a motion for this item? Moved by Commissioner Pacla, supported by Commissioner Sparks. Any questions or comments on this item? Commissioner Pacla.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I had a comment and 2 questions. The comment is it's really exciting to see the Welcome Plan moving into this space. They do such fantastic work, and I just wanted to commend that group for being a part of this great celebration. The two questions I had, one was, I noticed that there is just a 1-for-1 in terms of the dollars coming in and the dollars coming out, but there are some invoicing and reporting requirements. Wanted to make sure that we felt okay with the amount of work that was associated with the reporting requirements, in terms of the fact that there's no dollars associated with it.
Good morning, everyone. Yes, it's pretty simple. The reporting requirements are about like the invoicing process that the cultural event coordinators are going to be submitting on their invoice, and then that's what we submit to them. So it's very, very limited as far as like admin work on my end, fortunately. And we have a subcommittee that's helps out as well.
Great. The other question I had is, I noticed that there's mention of including the GRA 250 logo on all of the events. Do we know, will we also get to include the Kent County logo as the fiduciary of the funds that are providing the sponsorship?
That wasn't requested, no.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Commissioner Ponstein.
Thank you, Chair Teal. Al, how many governmental partners do we have in our West Michigan Welcome Plan?
Governmental partners, we have the City of Grand Rapids, and we have the KISD.
Do you, are you speaking to funding partners or participation in the collaborative work groups?
Both.
Both. So across the collaborative work groups, we have Kent County and Steering Committee, the City of Grand Rapids. We have within our like communications and some partnership with Ottawa County. The West Michigan Welcome Plan does cover both Kent and Ottawa counties, so have worked a little bit with Ottawa County staff as well, and then have hosted like a few like one-time partnerships with the City of Wyoming.
And then funding partners would be Grand Rapids and the KISD
In Kent
at
County,
this
yep.
point, correct?
And the state
And the state.
of Michigan.
Any other questions?
Well, I'm sure you're going to hear more in the next one
Okay.
too, so I'll just let it go.
Okay. Commissioner Sparks.
Thank you, Chair. I just would like to encourage the Welcome Plan. All of the work that you're doing is important work. It helps people that come here to feel welcome here and to feel like they can belong here and add to our economy. So thank you very much. Continue what you're doing. We appreciate it.
Commissioner Merchant.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just curious, how were these festivals selected? Was there an application process? What was the process to select these festivals?
So we reached out to known cultural events organizers within the City of Grand Rapids, because GRA 250 is really focused on the City of Grand Rapids. That's kind of their geographic footprint, so I didn't reach out to festival organizers outside of the city limits. And then anybody that really opted in, I'd let them know this is the opportunity. We're going to ask a collective fundraising ask to the GRA 250 team. It's not guaranteed funding, but if you would like to participate, the expectation would be that you host the Democracy Cafe at your event. And then do some of those like sponsor kickbacks like logo and social media promotions. And so anybody who opted in essentially said, yes, then that's the number of events. And then they were required to let me know like the estimated number of attendees so we could include that in the proposal.
Commissioner McLeod.
Thank you, Chair. So I, too, want to say thank you for all of the work on this. These are really excellent events. One of my questions was going to be how were the events selected? I guess my question in terms of the amount that's available to each event organizer is, I'd imagine that some of these events probably have more costs associated with them than others. And so the fact that there's a limit of $2,500 for each, is there any opportunity after the event costs are fully known to you all for, if one sponsor doesn't use all of their funding, is there a way to reallocate to other events so that the full amount of the grant can be utilized, but then if there's additional costs that they can be covered by these funds as well, or is it strictly limited to $2,500 to each?
We kept it, even though the events are different in size and different in scope, we kept it the same kind of baseline. 2,500 is kind of the baseline for larger festivals to be able to host a vendor table. And so even though these larger events have a bigger scope and bigger attendees, those smaller, like pop-up events have less support from other partners. And so for me, as like a coordinator and working with these partners day in and day out, like having that baseline across all events, even if you're like a big event or maybe a smaller event, it made sense. And I think from like the admin end and like redistribution of funds, then I might want an admin fee. And so simpler just to say, okay, everybody gets this much. This is the baseline. And for some events, that might mean that they only need 2 other sponsors, and for other events, they might need 10 other sponsors. But the events that are larger have the capacity, have the teams that are working on that, whereas the smaller events might be led by 1 or 2 coordinators, and then a large group of volunteers. So the dollar will go a lot longer, like a longer way for them.
One follow-up question. So following up on Commissioner Merchant's question, so thinking about this for, and maybe this might be relatable to the next item as well, but did the committee think about ways to like expand the reach of this? I know you said that you reached out to some known event sponsors, and then there was ways for them to opt in. I'm assuming if they found out about it. Was there a general call for like all events that are focused on all cultural events?
Yeah, so any like country or cultural event are the organizers that we reached out to.
Okay.
And this was, like, I'm a member of the subcommittee. It was kind of the vision of a lot of the subcommittee members. And then our intern is a co-chair. And so I supported in some of like that administrative and like helping with the context and communications piece, but the group itself is who led the strategy behind it.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Coleman.
Thank you, Chair. So there's definitely, a lot of positives I can see here in this item. And my question is, I guess, a broader one, and for Administrator Vandenberg, I know a number of months ago, we had some challenges, what I'd call maybe governance and guardrail kind of issues around, what the welcome plan was involved in. In your judgment, are those issues well behind us?
I believe they're well behind us. We've had guardrail, staff has had guardrail discussions with the collaborative steering committee. Those are ongoing, but I think we have very clear expectations in writing as far as what is acceptable, as far as the focus of the group, which is really the original focus. But obviously, yeah, I'll just say that I think those expectations, they are in writing, and they've been made clear to the collaborative steering committee and staff, and so I am comfortable with that, yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on this item this morning? Okay. Oh, Commissioner Halsted.
Yeah, so what kind of return on investment do we actually get from that? I know you said it puts a logo out. What does the county actually do to have a presence there, and what does that end up looking like? How many contacts do you have? What kind of information are they actually given to them that's helpful, or is it just like a visual that we're here?
I think a lot of it is relationship building. We will have a presence at most of those festivals as well. We sponsor them out of the Welcome Plan office. So this was just additional funds to these festivals, to these cultural celebrations, recognizing really the value of our rich, diverse community and the immigrants that live here. And so being a part of, the very, very low hanging fruit of just saying like, hey, will you reach out to these orgs? Can we apply for this funding, and will you be supportive in it? For me, like as a collaborative coordinator, like that's a big part of my job, is just being responsive to those requests, being responsive to the needs of the community, and the community partners that are facilitating and really leading those events. We do one cultural event called the Global Gathering, but I would not be the right person to lead the Grand Rapids Asian Pacific Festival, right? And so it's how can we come alongside these partners and really show up for them in a way that's no skin off my back to say, hey, can we ask for this funding? Will we receive it? And we did receive it. So it's just kind of putting ourselves out there and doing some of that back-end administrative work and building those relationships with those partners that we've already been working with for a number of years. Yeah.
Okay, any other questions or comments on this item? Okay, seeing no additional questions, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Motion passes. We are on to item E from the Administrator's Office, City of Grand Rapids contribution to support the West Michigan Welcome Plan.
All right. Action requested, recommend to the Board of Commissioners to accept and appropriate $50,000 in sponsorship funds from the City of Grand Rapids to the FY26 Welcome Plan budget in the Special Projects Fund, and to authorize the Board Chair or designee to approve extensions, amendments, and increases to the grant appropriation not to exceed 15% of the original award. Summary. West Michigan Welcome Plan Steering Committee is comprised of representatives from the City of Grand Rapids, Kent County, West Michigan Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, Grand Rapids Area Chamber of Commerce, Samaritas Hispanic Center of West Michigan, Lighthouse Immigrant Advocates, West Michigan Asian American Association, and 3 at-large members. The Welcome Plan Steering Committee guides the Welcome Plan Coordinator and the West Michigan Welcome Plan Collaborative in the implementation of the Welcome Plan. The vision of the West Michigan Welcome Plan is to create a welcoming and inclusive community for new Americans and implement a series of community goals and recommendations in 5 priority areas: improve educational outcomes, maximize economic potential, engaged communities, provide access to services, and ensure safe and connected communities. The collaborative is receiving a $50,000 contribution from the City of Grand Rapids. The funds will be transferred to Kent County to support the Welcome Plan goals and priorities, operations of the West Michigan Welcome Plan Collaborative. These services shall include but not limited to staffing, community engagement, programming, supplies, and meeting expenses. The Welcome Plan is to provide up to 10 hours per month of staff support for the Grand Rapids Sister Cities international operations, including content production, infrastructure setup, meeting participation, strategic planning, cross-marketing, website assistance, and event support. Corporation Council review and approve prior to execution.
Is there a motion for this item? Moved by Commissioner Sparks, supported by Commissioner Pakla. Any questions or comments on this item? Commissioner Ponstein.
Thank you, Chair Teal. So I didn't want to vote no on the one up above. I've never been a critic of any type of cultural cultural events, and I've always supported those, and I think it's needed, and it's a great way for people to get together. But in the paper over the past few days, there was an article by AmLive about this so-called secret society called the Tokyo Group. And it was spearheaded by the City of Grand Rapids and others to basically undermine the decision-making of the zoo board when it came to the aquarium. But not only undermine the zoo board, they're undermining us as a commission. For one city to take hold to guarantee that something would go into their city boundaries is just completely out of hand. And I don't consider the City of Grand Rapids a partner anymore. And I'm not going to take any money or any support that they wish to offer, because what they did behind closed doors, in secret, to undermine me as a county commissioner and all of you as a county commission is just wrong. So I'll be a no vote on this, and I'm sure in the future I'll be no votes again. But that is just totally out of line. I don't know how that thing was created, who was there, what the goals were, but it's just shameful, and shame on the City of Grand Rapids.
Chair Green.
Thank you, Chair Teal. I just had a couple of, just a question to help me understand the context. I don't have the number in front of me, but where does this grant or appropriation from the City of Grand Rapids fit into the overall for lack of a better term, like stack of how welcome plan programming is funded.
Looks like Helen's ready to go here, so.
So the intention behind the city and the county and actually the Ken ISD funding towards the welcome plan is to support staffing so that the funds that we're raising with grant funds, with bank partners, those sort of requests can go directly towards programming. And so the city, the intention behind that $50,000 of the city, we have 2 FTE covered with our state grant, but another full FTE not covered by our state grant. And so this really goes directly to staff.
Okay, thanks, Helen. So there's 3 total FTE, and 2 of them are funded through the state grant that comes to this. And then this would go into, so then the balance of that is funded by the county, the city, and the ISD?
Correct.
Okay, and then this would go, this is above and beyond that initial, the initial appropriation that was made by the county and the other partners into that, or is this a part of that? I'm just wondering if, I know we put dollars out front at the beginning of the fiscal.
It's part of the total revenue stack, and there's just a redistribution of what the funds are covering within the stack. I mean, the goal would be, as long as the county is responsible for the welcome plan, that we will seek to increase the number of funders for that. Nobody knows how long grants will last, and so building more sustainability is a good idea. Josh Spencer has been working on a campaign with the steering committee and others to raise funding for the welcome plan as well. So I would consider it just part of the general fundraising, wanting other governments also to participate. I think there's certain areas of the county that do have a heavy amount of immigrants, and certainly would look for those areas to help support the welcome plan.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments on this item this morning? Commissioner Pakla.
Just a quick one. I wanted to say I'm always impressed when the welcome plan comes up because it's one of the areas where you can get such a wide variety of community partners organized around a single cause, right? Having the Right Place, having the Grand Rapids Chamber, having the West Michigan Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, all working together toward this goal of welcoming new Americans is just a fantastic example of what we can do in our community. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing no additional questions or comments on this item, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion passes. We are on to item F from Parks and Recreation, easement agreement with Cannon Township for the purposes of developing James and Shirley Bullock Family Park.
Action requested, recommend to the Board of Commissioners to approve an easement agreement with Cannon Township to facilitate the development of James and Shirley Bullock Family Park, located at 7601 Belding Road, Northeast, Rockford, and authorize the county administrator to execute the agreement on behalf of the county, subject to the approval of the final easement language by the corporate council. Summary. In 2022, the Kent County Parks Department, in cooperation with the Kent County Parks Foundation, received a generous donation from James and Shirley Bullock to purchase approximately 120 acres of the former Silver Lake Country Club for the purposes of a Kent County park. In 2023, the department went through a public-facing planning exercise to develop a conceptual master plan for the park, which included, among other items, a paved drive into the park that aligned with the intersection of Sunfish Drive, a parking lot, a pavilion, and a nature-based playground. The Cannon Township Board is committed to funding and constructing these improvements. Funding for the improvements comes from a combination of Cannon Township general funds and philanthropic funds raised from the community. The intention of the easement agreement is to delineate responsibilities for the ownership, maintenance, and operations of the park and proposed improvements. Cannon Township will own, maintain, and operate the pavilion, parking lot, entry drive, and all improvements related to the development of these items. The pavilion will also contain a public-facing restroom that they will maintain and will be open to the public at all times the park is open. The easement agreement will also provide a temporary easement for the construction of the nature-based playground. This structure will be outside of the permanent easement area and will become the responsibility of the Kent County Parks Department for operation and maintenance upon completion of the project.
Is there a motion for this item? Moved by Vice Chair Hildebrand. Is there support? Supported by Commissioner Pacla. Questions or comments on this item? Commissioner Pacla.
I'm really glad to see this moving forward. I'm wondering what other steps are upcoming or that we should expect in terms of the process for getting the whole bulk park up and running.
Thank you. So this is really the linchpin of the Process. Dirty little secret is if you've been out there, they're moving dirt right now, so we're playing a little bit of catch up. There is one more easement that'll have to come in front of you at the next meeting, which is an easement from Consumers Energy, because the former Consumers easement does not lead to where the pavilion is being built. So we'll have to do that as well. And then I think that there's, after the easement agreement is done, correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, but I think there's just some general operations types of things that we need to go through. Because it's an easement in the middle of the Kent County Park, they'll have to follow all of the Kent County Parks ordinances. So we need to make sure that's copacetic with how they want to run the building. But this is really kind of the linchpin. And besides the consumer's easement, I don't think there's anything else that will come in front of the board.
Yeah, I think that's right, Ben. And I'd just add that it has been a long process to get where we are, but with the diligent work of Ben and then also with the Cannon Township, it came together and it's an exciting project, so.
Great, thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments on this item this morning? Okay, thank you for your help. See no additional questions. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion passes. We are on to item G from Bureau of Equalization, the 2026 Equalization Report.
Action requested, recommend to the Board of Commissioners to adopt the 2026 Equalization Report. The Bureau of Equalization has completed its review of the 2026 assessment rolls of the 21 townships and 9 cities in Kent County. Equalization recommends the adoption of the SEV of the real and personal property in the total combined amount of $55,758,757,159. This is an increase of 7.65% over the 2025 SEV. The state taxable value, which is the real and personal property, is our taxable amount per Proposal A is $38,088,467,907, an increase of 6.44% over the prior year state taxable value. The equalized values have been prepared in accordance with MCL 211.34 as amended and in time to be submitted to the State Tax Commission by the required deadline of May 4, 2026. Just to highlight the importance of this one item, if it was not approved in May, the board would need an action of the legislature to allow any of those governments to levy taxes in Kent County. So it is one of the more important things the Board of Commissioners does each and every year.
Is there a motion for this item? Moved by Commissioner Pacla, supported by Commissioner McLeod. Questions or comments on this item? Commissioner Pacla.
I just wanted to remark as I was reading through the spreadsheet that was included that shows the historic county equalized value. It's nice to see the percentage change going back to some lower amounts than what we saw in the 22, 23, 24 taxable years. I know that those were significant increases for homeowners, and so it's nice to see that we're sort of getting back to a more normalized amount of money that's increasing.
Commissioner Ponstein.
Thank you. I'll be brief. So, yeah, it's a little better than in the past, but wow, 7.5% increase, 6.44% increase. I mean, for the homeowner, keeping the home is becoming harder and harder. And I know a lot of these numbers come at the guidance of the state of Michigan, but we've got to do something about property taxes because our residents are basically being taxed out of owning their home.
Any other questions or comments this morning on this item? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion passes. We are on to item H from the Health Department, fiscal year 2026, Department of Licensing and Regulatory Affairs, Medical Marijuana Operation and Oversight Grant.
Action requested. Recommend to the Board of Commissioners to accept and appropriate $37,344 in grant funds to the FY26 Health Fund budget for the Lara, Michigan Medical Marijuana Operation and Oversight Grant, and authorize the board chair or health officer to execute the agreement. Summary, the Health Department has been awarded $135,836 in funding from Lara to support education, communication, and outreach programs related to the Michigan Medical Marijuana and Adult Use Marijuana programs. Of the total award, $98,492 has already been appropriated in the FY26 Health Fund budget. This request is to appropriate the remaining $37,344 to the FY26 Health Fund budget. KCHD will use the funding for a messaging campaign that focuses on prevention of driving under the influence of cannabis, safe storage of cannabis, and the potential risks of cannabis use to fetal, infant, and youth brain development. The prevention messaging will be disseminated to a broad and diverse audience of Kent County residents using social media, videos on television and streaming platforms, and audio spots on Spotify, Pandora, or radio. Some traditional advertising methods, such as bus ads and billboards, will also be used. Funds will also be used to purchase lock bags and to promote safe storage. Data from the 2023 Kent County Community Health Needs Assessment shows 16% of adults 18 years and older reported using cannabis on 14 or more days in the past month, up from 9% in 2020. Frequent use has doubled among adults aged 25 to 64, with the largest increase observed among those aged 25 to 34 in 2020, so a 12% to 29% increase. The grant period is November 11, 2025 through September 1, 2026, and Corporate Counsel will review and approve all documents.
Is there a motion for this item? Moved by Commissioner Sparks, supported by Commissioner McLeod. Any questions or comments on this item? Commissioner Ponstein.
Thank you, Chair Teal. So all my years sitting on the Mental Health Board and the Substance Abuse Advisory, this has always been a funny one for me. Here we are, I've always been supportive of medical marijuana and the research, and if it can help someone, fine. But when the voters of the state of Michigan were sold this bill of goods about this proposal that legalized marijuana across the board, we all heard the ads that it's just people are going to be in their living room smoking a joint or just relaxing and reading a book. What the outcome that has happened is really disturbing. A rise in DUI interactions with law enforcement. The use of minors using it is up. And the number one reason when they dig into the reason why is that they cite that, well, mom and dad smoke pot, so it can't be all bad. We have adult addiction. Frequent use has doubled since this proposal's gone through. So yeah, the money's well needed, but I think the state should be kicking in more because they've been lining their pockets with even more tax dollars. And that's what this was all about, that proposal. It was for government to collect more taxes and find new and different ways to spend money. And that's just wrong. So no, I'm not going to vote against this, but this is a serious issue created by government units and their desire to raise more tax dollars. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on this item? Commissioner McLeod.
Thank you, Chair. I just wondered about the campaign itself. So it sounds like this is a campaign similar to other substance use sort of campaigns related to health impacts of these various substances. So I think that I just wondered if the marketing campaign related to this is going to follow the strategy of other substance use sort of campaigns, or if it's has been like a brand new sort of campaign that is following its own strategy? So are we just kind of reusing what we have and just kind of focused in more specifically on this substance, or did we have to come up with something different? And is the funding kind of being used in a different way than?
Yeah, thank you for the question. It'll be very similar to other substances like alcohol. You know, we have messaging that's been proven to be successful in that. You know, there'll be some nuances, you know, to marijuana since it's a different substance, but we'll kind of use the same types of approaches, you know, learning from the community, learning what is most effective with our contracted advertising company.
Any other questions or comments on this item? Commissioner Sparks.
Thank you, Chair. I'm really glad to see that we're reaching out beyond the traditional media points, because that's where we need to be, where the people are. And I understand Commissioner Ponstein and what he's saying. I just believe that this gives us an opportunity as Kent County to be able to help with that narrative and do the messaging so that we can reach the individuals that need to be reached. So I'm very thankful for this.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Commissioner Coleman.
Thank you, Chair. Back in the olden days, I used to look at something like this grant and think to myself, well, I'm not sure how effective like this kind of advertising really is to, you know, get to people, change behaviors, but I would look at it as, well, or at least, you know, the money's going to the local billboard company or the local newspaper, or, so even if the advertising's totally ineffective, then at least, you know, the money's coming into our community. Now, and I'm not saying I disagree with the strategy, but now the money goes to, you know, Facebook and Snapchat, and so that aspect of it is of the money coming and staying into the local community is basically lost, just given the digital age we're in and the where these advertising dollars go. So I guess, do we have any data, you know, obviously from these digital channels, there's a lot more data at our fingertips. Do we have any data that would suggest that behaviors actually change as a result of this advertising?
Yeah, thanks for that concern. You know, I think that is a challenge. You know, we can understand the numbers of people that we reach through these types of campaigns, but, you know, really understanding behavioral change is difficult with these types of prevention messages. You know, I think that we just understand that the need is there to get this information out there to limit the impact of these substances, you know, through impaired driving or impact on children. But yeah, I agree with you, Commissioner Coleman, that it is challenging to get an impact on behavioral change through this.
Any other questions or comments on this item this morning? Thank you. Okay, seeing no additional comments or questions, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Motion passes. We are on to our final action item of the day from the Drain Commissioner's Office, Knapp's Corner Drainage District Bond Series 2026.
Action requested, recommend to the Board of Commissioners to authorize pledging the county's full faith and credit to the issuance of Knapp's Corner Drainage District Drain Bond Series 2026. Summary, pursuant to a petition filed with the Drain Commissioner of the County of Kent, proceedings have been taken by the Drainage Board for the Knapp's Corner Drain Maintenance and Improvement Project under the provisions of Chapter 20 of Act 40, Public Acts of Michigan, 1956, as amended for the establishment and construction of a drain project referred to as the Knapp's Corner Drain Maintenance and Improvement Project, and will issue its bonds in order to finance the improvements in an amount not to exceed $16,254,000. The proposed resolution will authorize the pledge of the county's limited tax full faith and credit as backup security on the bonds, and authorized officers include the chairperson of the Board of Commissioners, the administrator, the county treasurer, and fiscal services director, or any one of them to execute a certificate of the county to comply with the continuing disclosure, and to prepare and approve portions of the official statement that pertain to the county, and the execution of all other documents as necessary in order to close on the issuance of the proposed bonds. The principal of and interest on the bonds will be payable from an equal amount of assessments to be made upon the city of Grand Rapids, which the cost has been assessed pursuant to the final order of apportionment. The pledge of the full faith and credit of the county to the bonds will reduce the interest cost of financing the project and will be a benefit to the people of the county and the public corporation assessed for the project. The method of sale will be determined based on the best current market offerings at the time of sale. Staff anticipates closing in May of '26. Bond counsel has reviewed and approved all documents. I note that Drain Commissioner Ken is in the house wearing his red shirt, and many times that has some significance to money, so we'll have to wait and see.
Is there a motion for this item? Moved by Commissioner McLeod. Is there support? Supported by Commissioner Halsted. Questions or comments on this item? Commissioner McLeod.
I just had a comment, so I just wanted to say that I do appreciate that the Drain Commissioner has responded to some of the questions that we've had in the past about the process, the petition process, and sort of the detail related to the costs. I do appreciate that all of that information is in here, and I'm sure that it helps with fewer questions being asked about these things, so I appreciate that.
Commissioner Ponstein.
Thank you, Chair Teal. So, yes, thanks. So question for that Al can probably answer. So we, once again, going to bonds. They have been a sector that loves to charge fees for everything to issue bonds. Are there any other revenue avenues out there in this new world of investing that may challenge the benefit of bonds and do it a cheaper way, like the private equity markets?
I'm anticipating, not that I'm aware of, Mr. Commissioner, I think that as I look at bonding, especially when you can get tax-free municipal bonds, that's very hard to beat. We have heard some people talk at times about going to the equity market to finance a project. As I've talked to developers, there's typically an expectation of a return on investment, even from day one, of a minimum of 15%, and many times more. And adding that to a project can sometimes make it very difficult to achieve. I think uniquely under the drain code, bonds are the method to get these things done. There's a couple of reasons why we do bonds. One is nobody has the cash to pay for it up front. It wouldn't be appropriate to use general fund money except for when the county has to pay an assessment itself. So if the Parks Department were part of a drain district, then it would make sense for the county to use general fund dollars to pay for an assessment. But if otherwise, you would be contributing general fund dollars to benefit an individual, which is not allowed under Michigan law. And so that's why general fund dollars and other sources typically don't get used for this sort of thing. The other benefit of bonding is, somebody can pay for it over time, so it might be the individuals can't pay their assessment up front, but also it spreads the cost over years, generations of people in a way when you think of it that way, so that it isn't all the people that live in a community right at that moment that pay the debt. It's spread over those, people come and go, and so it's also considered a different use of the word equity, but another reason to do that sort of debt. But long answer to a question, but I don't know of any other mechanisms for drain debt that provide as much benefit as a tax-free municipal bond.
Commissioner Pakla.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've got a question, I think, for the Drain Commissioner, if I might be able to grab him, and it's related to the line that's related to property acquisition, and I was just hoping to get a couple more details about the two properties that are listed there. One of them seems to be significantly far away from the actual drainage basin, so I'm curious about that Grand River Ave location.
All right, in order to connect this drain to the river, we had to have an easement, all right? I couldn't get an easement. I started working with the property owner. She was very receptive. We offered her a fair amount for that easement, but she's older, and it just made her very upset to even work through that thought process, and her son asked that we back away. It was upsetting his mother too much, so I did that. I could have eminent domain, but it doesn't justify what we needed and to do that. So the property next to her was a house where the residents were in a retirement home, and it's been abandoned for a year or so, and it was in pretty rough shape. So we purchased that property, and then we surveyed out an easement, and we removed the house and the outbuildings. If we're not living there, Ada required all the buildings be removed. So we did that, so now it's a developable piece of property with our easement that will always be. But we're gonna wait till after the construction, because the contractor will use that for staging. And when the project is wrapped up, then we will put it on the market and resell it.
So then a follow-up, is the cost that we're seeing in the budget here, that's the cost that was paid by the Drain Commissioner's Office for the purchase of the entire property, not just what you anticipate the delta would be once you sell it?
No, we don't, that's what we paid for it. That's the entire cost, correct.
And how, ballpark, how common is it that the Drain Commissioner's Office has to purchase a property as opposed to going through the easement process?
Very seldom, very seldom. The original piece of property was, we needed that to extend the pond, so that was a much different fit. But I usually don't. Matter of fact, I've given over or sold off land more than I take on, because I don't like to own property. We can have easements, I'll take easements all day long. Property brings liability, it brings maintenance, so that I don't want. It just creates cost, so,
I appreciate the extra details, thank you.
yeah.
Any other questions or comments on this item? Okay, seeing no additional questions or comments, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion passes. We are on to commissioner comments. Are there any commissioner comments this morning? Commissioner Coleman.
I just want to say kudos to the administrator, all the action requests and all those numbers and everything today. That was impressive work getting through reading all of those, so thank you.
Any other question or commissioner comments this morning? Okay, seeing none, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this morning.